You just welcome Jordy, by the way.
Hey everyone.
Jordy Mitchell, stand-up comedian, promoter. Stand-up. You do run two good gigs.
Thank you. I run Death or Glory in Chapel Street and started Paradiso Comedy, which you'll be a regular at for both. Yeah, it's recording.
It's recording. And also, you're in a thrash metal band. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, it had thrash elements to it. If there's any metal purists, they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
I may be doing you a disservice here because fine. It is. I looked online. You got to be pretty clinical. Are you heavy?
It's just heavy. It's just
heavy. Even though they've got the singers kind of throaty.
Yeah, we'll get into that because subgenres just wreck everything. I think.
You know the little jazz tune at the start? That's Jordy. He did that. The heavy metal dude did that. It's like asking Satan to sing me a lullaby. He actually sat down and did me a little tune. I said, I'm thinking something Frasier, something. And he's like, do you want a cock in your ass as well, man? Fucking now. No, he didn't. But I couldn't believe I was asking a heavy metal guy to sit down and create for me a wonderful little jazz tune like that bass guitar, which is one of my favorite little tunes to get into the show.
It was actually really fun to do because comedy's so much different to music, but it's so similar in so many. It's just ridiculous. So like when I was in a band, I was with these dudes. The band's called Naberus, still active. We started that when we were 15, and I left 2 years ago.
Did you leave the band?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was.
Did you go to Japan in 2019?
No.
You didn't go, so you had left by that stage.
Yeah, I couldn't afford it. So basically, what happened was there was it was a multitude of things. So same as any long-term relationship, you grow. Like my first girlfriend was 15 to 21, I think, and we were two completely different people by then. And that just happened. But it was a bit of creative differences and directional difference. So I got sick of doing these little shows where venues wouldn't promote. Other bands wouldn't promote. I knew we had good stuff, otherwise I wouldn't have been in it. But when they pitched the idea for Japan, I looked up the venues, and it was like Funny Near the Brunny, but that works for comedy. But I couldn't imagine a 5-piece metal band being up there.
Squeezed in a small space.
Yeah, physically would not fit.
What was the capacity of the venues for the shows you were going to play?
By the looks of it, like that's the thing with Japan. Apparently, it's all like kind of like the Brunny. It's all it's like performing in a hallway. So
you're referring to the Bergie Seltzer.
In
yeah. Sydney Road,
sorry,
Brunswick.
yes.
Yeah, it's
Bergie
a narrow
Seltzer.
space.
It's a narrow space. Works great for comedy, but I couldn't imagine anything more than like an acoustic duo or something being on there. Like I've got no idea what music they do. So sorry, Glenn. But I looked up the venues and. Just to get on these bills, it was about $5,000 each, and that was before flights, travel expenses, you name it.
So you were going to go on a tour and not make money, lose money?
Fuck no. Yeah.
Is that indicative of bands? Do that? Because I always thought, and probably a lot of people watching, when a band tours, they make money?
It depends.
Really?
It really depends. So,
holy fuck.
Funny you mentioned thrash metal. So I started a band in high school with a mate just so we could do Battle of the Bands. And I was with them for about 6 months after school, if that. I don't think I actually played a show with them outside of school. But that turned into this band called Harlot. Now, they've gone on to do several world tours. I think they're up to album number 4 now. They're on Metal Blade Records, which is, I think, ranked at number 3 record labels in the world, regardless of genre. They're in a position where, like, say they're going from Czechoslovakia to Prague or whatever, and they say, look, we've only got 10 shirts, 4 CDs left. They've got them shipped there already, and it's all profit.
Okay.
That's kind of like...
There's a support base.
Yeah, it'd be like...
you guys would be on your own, essentially.
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
And not making much money.
Nothing.
If anything.
I've made more money in comedy in 2 years than I have in 15 years of music.
Oh, wow.
Which is saying a lot because I think I've only raked in like $1,000 over 2 years in comedy. But
can you explain the difference in layman's terms, if you can, between thrash metal and heavy metal?
Okay.
I understand hard rock.
Yeah, it all derives from the same place, kind of thing.
I thought thrash was the throaty lead singer.
That's kind of more your like the like that sort
Yeah.
of that's your death metal sort of doom metal sort
So
of thing.
is that a whole completely different
Oh
genre?
yeah. It's
So
like
there's death metal, thrash metal, and heavy.
there's unnameable amounts of
All right.
subgenres. So like when you pick up guitar, like I grew up listening to Kiss, Led Zeppelin, AC/DC. So that's the stuff I played when I picked up a guitar, or tried to. And then got introduced to a mate. First time I got stoned, he put on Ride the Lightning by Metallica.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing this one song by Kiss on one of their live albums called Parasite, and I couldn't find it anywhere because they only did it live. And it's just like, dun, 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 and it was the heaviest thing I'd ever heard. I was like,
Really?
what is that sound?
Was it just Gene Simmons on bass? Did you just do bass then?
Oh, no, it was guitar. It's just the
Okay.
opening riff. It's just, it's unlike any song. I actually don't know if that song's a cover or whatever because it's not on. There's several songs on their first live album that aren't on any of their other records. Massive Kiss fan, if you can't tell. But just that sound, I was just like, what the hell is that? Like, I need more of that. What is this heavy shit? You know what I mean? Because up until that stage, the heaviest thing I'd heard was like, embarrassing as it is, like Whole Lot of Love by Led Zeppelin kind of
Really?
thing. Yeah, I
Well-
had no idea it existed.
For me, it was AC/DC, probably Highway to Hell.
Yeah.
And definitely when Metallica came in with Kill 'Em All.
Yeah, I didn't know Metallica. Okay,
And then Anthrax had some heavy shit going on as well.
Metallica, thrash metal.
Is Metallica thrash metal?
Yeah.
No,
Not-
now they're pop.
Yeah, now they're, I don't know what
No.
they are now,
Eh,
but
candy pop.
yeah. Well, one of the first songs I learned on guitar was,
Like, you can't
was Master of Puppets. Like,
Yeah, Master of Puppets you could trash a house to and finger
Oh,
a
fuck
girl
yeah.
in the back of that, you know?
and then make out in the clean bit and then get back into the fingering. Yeah.
That was down the coast growing up in the Mornington Peninsula. It was like trashing houses. Yeah, Metallica, Master of Puppets. You couldn't do that to Enter Sandman. Even James Hetfield himself said he feels embarrassed about the lyrics to Enter Sandman.
Oh, they're shit. They're nursery rhymes. They are. They're pulled out of nursery rhymes. But that's what happens when you got a label. We had a label for several years, and the golden age of making money off music, I think, unless you're peddling something, what metal isn't everyone's cup of tea, right? So if you're doing, who's popular at the moment, like rock wise, I couldn't even tell you actually, but like, so you look at all these like pop stars, right? So you got like your Cardi B's and all that sort of shit. In their videos, you'll see they've got the newest high-end Mercedes. They've got the designer vodka bottle. They've got the brand new Apple Watch. I'm just listing
Yeah, sure. I know what you're saying.
like
and I think
expensive shit, and that's how they get the money.
if I could take it back to the original conversation, do you think Metallica sold out when they
Fuck yeah.
put on a business suit and ditched, the growth of their music? When did that happen? What album was it? Was it just after the Black Album?
Yeah. So Injustice for All.
Brilliant.
That's the album I lost my virginity to, so I fucking love that.
Yeah.
I can't tell my best mate that because that's
Especially
his
if you-
favorite album. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you did his sister or something.
No,
Yeah.
that was later.
Did you root to the rhythm?
I think so.
That's heavy.
As best as I could.
Wow. You know what?
Well, it's
my
first
virginity-
time.
I lost my virginity to Super Mario busting bricks in the background. That's why I think I'm one big fucking joke.
Pro tip: if you're going to put music on while you're fucking, pick a live album because if you time it right, it's great. You get an applause break.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Where was it? Mine was in a garage in Rye on the Mornington Peninsula with Super Mario in the background. Thank you, Shona, for that. Lovely time. Great fun. And she was awesome too. She took control of me because I was shit scared.
Yeah.
And yours was with Justice for All in the background?
Yeah, so I was a bit of an introvert because I hated my family growing up. So I put all my effort into guitar and all that sort of shit in music. And I had Dad's old hi-fi. You know those hi-fis that people are trying to flog for like $1,000 now, but they're worth fuck all, really?
Fuck yes. Like hipsters are fucking paying top dollar for it.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. We had that.
yeah. So when my dad moved to Tassie, I got that because he couldn't be fucked taking it, right? So I had that, and that was my life. Like, I learned how to do the AUX thing. I learned how to, put the CDs in, get the levels right, all that sort of stuff, and I'd just play along to shit. Like fade out one side of the speaker so I could play the rhythm section. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
while
that's
listening
nice.
to Metallica and shit. And
Just playing guitar, not bass.
Yeah, I started on guitar, and
Because
then
I only know you as bass.
yeah. So I've never recorded anything on guitar. Everything's been on bass, and it's all
Okay.
been on one bass,
Oh,
like,
wow.
except for your
You
bit,
did
because
on
that was the first time I got to use my acoustic.
Yeah.
Which was great.
Yeah.
That was good fun. Yeah, no, I just had this set up, and it was mum worked late, and mum said she was coming home extra late one day, and had been seeing this girl for a month or so, and yeah, it was good, and had the house to ourselves.
And you chose Injustice for All. Beautiful.
I don't know why.
Because it felt right.
Yeah.
And you followed your gut, like all good comics should on stage.
Oh, it was way before I was. Yeah. Sometimes it gets
Wow.
into trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And going back to the original train of thought,
Sorry,
we
mate.
had
Yep.
no, it's me taking you off course. Metallica sold out. You think after the Black Album? Is that what you were going to say? Or that's what I said. Did you agree, or were you like, oh no, I thought it was a bit after or earlier?
I do, but I've read a lot of interviews and seen a lot of interviews, and I sympathise with them. So,
Of course.
if you're embarrassed by Enter Sandman and you wrote it, like, that's a staple. They have to play that every night, right? So
Yes.
when Injustice for All came out, they toured that for. Oh, someone's gonna correct me on this, but like, your normal tour cycle would go for a year, right? This went for like 3 years, and I think they were just burnt out, and they were just fucking around or something. And I think that, from what I gather from the interviews and stuff, they got bored of their stuff, so they kind of went a different direction. Maybe they needed money, I don't know. But then you get into the albums after the Black Album, like Load and Reload. If you're a hardcore Metallica fan, they hate them. They absolutely, but I love them. They're great albums.
What do you like about them?
Um,
Why have the hardcores gotten off it? And what have you? Is it an appreciation of the music itself because you play? And
yeah, the music itself, yeah, like Saint Anger. No one acknowledges that thing exists. But if that was released, it sounds like a demo. That's the first problem with it. Like,
was that early noughties?
yeah, yeah, that'd be.
I remember that.
Yeah, mid 2000. Yeah, so that got released. Now, if that didn't have Metallica's name on it, and it was someone else's, and it was released as a demo, you'd be like, oh yeah, these guys have got potential. But then you put the back catalogue of Metallica on, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? It's like, it'd be like if Chris Wainhouse got up tonight, or yourself, and you read from a joke book. This isn't Johnny Katz. This isn't Chris Wainhouse. It'd just be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
It's weird, but everyone needs money.
Did you? The heaviest band I was exposed to on heavy metal was in Stuttgart,
Yeah.
Germany, early '90s. Creator,
Oh,
a song called "Extreme Aggression."
yeah.
And I was like, "Holy fucking shit!" Google that. It's probably
Yeah.
the heaviest thing I've heard.
I can show you heavier, but Creator's fucking amazing.
And one of my favorite heavy songs is Megadeth, "Holy War."
Yeah.
You know how steak goes with a certain wine? I reckon Holy War or Extreme Aggression from Creator goes well with Road Rage. It will really get you through traffic.
Yeah, I was listening to my mate's band Harlot on the way here from Ballarat.
Harlot.
I may have been speeding a bit. Yeah, Harlot.
Heavy as fuck.
Yeah, they're getting it's thrash metal, but that's the thing. Like, when most people think thrash metal, they think, like Slayer, early Metallica, Anthrax, Megadeth kind of thing. But Harlot's kind of taken it in a way, and because it was all recorded in the 80s and stuff, the sound quality is nowhere near as good as what we've got today, right? It's kind of messy. Some bands have taken that as it's like new age bands, like current bands recording on vinyl, like straight to vinyl or tape, like the White Stripes or something. There's a certain sound quality that comes with that. But Harlot have just got their shit together in where it's pure thrash, but the settings they use on their amps and how it's recorded and stuff, it's legible, if that makes sense. Like, the riffs aren't messy. They're fast as fuck, and they've got, melody and groove to it and stuff, but it's legible thrash. It's incredible. It's amazing. But yeah, I can't pronounce the name of the album because it's a word I've never heard before, but Dietrich of a Final... I don't know, just look up Harlot. They're great.
Naberus was. I didn't know what that was. The band you used to belong to. Is that a like a devil or some shit incarnate? And
That's a funny story actually. So we started when we were about 15, and there was just this name called Ruins of Society that just seemed to click for us, and we were doing that. So it was myself, the guitarist, and the singer since we were about 15, 16 till 2 years ago, with various drummers. I think every recording we've had has had a different drummer. Like we just couldn't hold one down. And we kept getting these gigs. And mind you, we had still had parents coming to gigs. Like I did the SB for the first time in the basement, and my dad was there because I wasn't old enough to do a gig in a pub.
Sure.
Basically, so we kept getting put on these bills because we hadn't recorded anything at that stage. Probably 2 years in, and we kept getting these gigs with all these punk bands, and we'd get up and no one would give a shit. Like we'd start our riff and everyone fuck off for a smoke or get booze or whatever. And we realised that Ruins of Society was kind of a bit of a punky sounding name. So we need to change this up. So we started writing new shit, not to write punk stuff, but we were hanging out at my grandparents' place one day because we used to jam in the garage. And
fuck, you would have loved that.
yeah.
Poor old cunt.
Yeah, he didn't like it. Yeah, you met him the other night.
Oh, him?
He was very supportive. Yeah, he was very
Yeah,
supportive.
he wouldn't turn his chair around. It was like UK voice or something like that. He had his back to me for the whole fucking gig.
That was
And I'm
so
like,
good.
I got to crack grandpa.
To be fair, I think it was his hearing aid because on certain angles he can't hear shit. But
Yeah, I think they become like sonar.
Yeah.
They have to send a satellite in the direction they want to receive a signal. So they could not look. Yeah, their eyes are way off axis, but
Yeah.
their ears are what it's all about.
Shout out to Noel. He's probably one of the funnest.
Good sport. He did enjoy himself.
Yeah, he's one of the funniest non-comics I've ever met, and like, yeah, love him. Got the best grandparents.
I
But
want to talk about that gig before, but finish what you were saying.
oh yeah, sorry. So we're rating. This is before like you had internet on anything like dial up and all that sort of shit. So you couldn't Google what something meant, and we're just like flicking through books and stuff.
Naberus.
Yeah, and we found this. I don't know. No one in my family's religious, but we found some Greek mythology thing. And Cerberus was the dog that guards hell. So if you've
That's right.
if you've seen the first Harry Potter, that's Fluffy, that guards the Chamber of Secrets or something like that. And I'm like, Cerberus, that's cool, but we drew it up like logos kind of thing, and then we looked at like down the line in certain cultures it was called a Naberus, and was either a raven that I think told the devil messages or some shit like that, or as a three-headed dog. So all our first shit was like three-headed wolves, and Naberus just stuck.
Can I ask you to be spokesman for the whole fucking industry? I'm going to push you here on a philosophical level, but why has death metal, heavy metal, thrash metal developed an affinity for the dark forces, for hell itself? Why haven't jazz musicians gone, I'm summoning Satan for this riff, whoa, let's go?
Yeah, who did that?
I don't know. It's something indicative I've noticed about the culture of heavy metal. Is it a obvious form of rebellion? Against the grain, music that's hard on the ears, which is not sweet, which is, unlike sweet, it's devilish in its tones. Darkness. I don't know.
I would put punk as more of a against the grain, against the establishment kind of thing, because they did whatever the fuck they want. You look at the Sex Pistols and all that, but
well, I'm just going out here on a limb. Was it Alice Cooper who just started, or Ozzy who started like biting shit off?
Yeah, Ozzy and like Kiss is a great example. Like they're pretty soft rock. Like they were heavy-ish for the time.
Absolutely.
And you would call it hard rock today to an extent. Like not all their songs, obviously, but like Love Gun, one of the greatest tracks ever written. That's a heavy fucking song.
Yeah. But then Kiss Unmasked is very soft, I think.
Yeah, exactly. They pussied out a bit there, but
I love that album, by the way.
Yeah, I love all their shit, but like except for Gene's solo album, and Peter's. Paul Stanley had the best fucking solo album, let's be honest. But they had like movements against them because people just read too into shit. You know what I mean? Like Knights in Satan's Service. That's what they thought Kiss stood for.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But
No, they just wanted to get fucking laid.
It's
like,
just Kiss.
yeah, they wanted to get laid.
He was a good Jewish boy.
Yeah.
That just wanted to root women.
Yeah. And then the other thing
he
was...
didn't do any drugs at all.
Paul Stanley?
No, Gene.
Allegedly.
I believe him. He's got great skin.
Yeah. Okay, Well, he doesn't now because he's had plastic surgery.
Well, is that what it is?
Yeah, it looks like he's been polished. But Paul Stanley, like some of his best work was from like 78 all the way through to like 93 when he was coked off his eyeballs. Like
right.
That's when his voice was at peak. And but yeah, like Ace Frehley, the original guitarist, he drew up their first logo and did the SS kind of like that. And you look at it like, oh yeah, that looks cool. But then you had all these, mum group sort of things, like Christian groups and shit. Well, that looks like the SS out of the Nazis.
Yeah. So was there a kind of cancel culture as well back then that were putting pressure on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, someone wrote a movie about it, Detroit Rock City.
I don't know about that.
That's what great movie. That's what it's based off.
Yeah, cool.
Well, that's how I interpret it. But yeah, Alice Cooper brought. I used to love Alice Cooper and like Poison. What a track! And then I found out that he did. I heard School's Out for Summer for the first time when I was about 16. I was like, who the fuck is this? And then I looked up and it was Alice Cooper. I was like, oh. It's like, how the fuck? That's his Enter Sandman. That's probably by far his worst fucking track.
Yeah.
Like, you're talking about no more rulers, no more teachers, and you're like 38. What the fuck are you doing?
Right.
Like, it's just, I don't get it. It's just weird. But makes money. But, like, he kind of brought the horror of a movie to the stage, as does, like, Rob Zombie, the Rob Zombie, the metal dude, Marilyn Manson, and all that sort of shit. But then on the absolute extreme side of things that made big news, I think the band's called Mayhem. I don't listen to them, but it's too heavy for me. But they were all arrested for burning churches in Sweden, I think it was.
Right. And what year was this?
I want to say late 80s.
Okay. So you think basically it's a whole number of things that were happening. There was also a guy that was it Mayhem that used their album cover of the guy who killed himself.
Yeah.
That's right. And no country would print it except a South American country, and they got the image of the guy who had just blown his brains out and printed it on the album. Okay, so all these things together combined, and there you have it. It all congealed together and brought into focus of a satanic reference.
Yeah, you take a bunch of helicopter parents who don't want to expose their kid to anything negative.
Yeah.
You're going to get cancel culture.
Yeah. One thing I'm attracted to stand up to is I write, I direct, I'm my own master on stage. I don't listen to anyone. I've seen bands, movies, horror stories of breakups, fights, infighting, creative wrestling matches.
Yep.
Did that happen with your band a lot? Were you exposed to that? And what sort of things were you exposed to? What were you fighting about? Was it creative direction, or was it more so the fact that when you go on tour, you're in a motel room together and you're at wit's end and you lock horns?
Yeah, first tour we did. I'm not going to name names because I'll probably watch this, but one of the band members brought their girlfriend along.
That's a very common fucking story.
Changed the whole fucking dynamic. Like, not that we were like idiots while we were out. I mean, we did tour with another band up to Canberra or Sydney in cars. And we brought paintball guns with us and we were shooting each other on the freeway. Like, that was great fun. But like,
great fun.
Yeah, it was awesome. I'm a good shot at 110 Ks apparently, but that was probably the dumbest thing we ever did. Like, we weren't pissheads, we weren't druggies, nothing like that. There was an odd joint here and there, that was it. But it affected our work. But you bring a chick into the mix, or it's just a completely different dynamic. Like, he'd fuck off with her. And it's like, well, we wanted to experience this. Like, we wanted to go to the shitty diner, or not diner, we're in Australia, but, like the shitty little takeaway joint after the gig. We wanted to try and find the 24-hour Macca's after we played. Yeah.
Debrief, chat.
Just chill.
Be with your crew.
Yeah, because the only time you see him is at band prac or once or twice a week, and then on stage. Like, there's no...
So it's like after the gig is the celebration where the whole team relaxes in the change rooms and talks about the game. Yeah,
pretty much. So there was a bit of dynamic change. We had multiple rhythm guitarists at one point, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I'm from the school of thought that you're lucky if you've got any punters at all. I don't care who you are. Like, back then, this was before Netflix was on your phone and stuff, but like, you're there to put on a show. Like, I used to get really, really shitty when bands like didn't know what they were playing next, or someone's up there just like staring at their feet, kind of thing, like not putting on a show. Like,
Would that happen in your band? Would some of your band members? No.
No.
Okay.
Like you'd see some bands with no stage presence, and it looked like maybe it's because I grew up on Kiss. I don't know, but like there was just no effort put in. And then, you know, a guitarist constantly fucks up or something. It's like, why the fuck have we got him? You know what I mean? It's just stuff like that. But creative difference, yes, that was a factor, because the first album came out and we had a bunch of EPs and stuff. I was like, oh, dude, if you like heavy stuff, please look at this. But then the second album came out and like 90% of it was written by the singer. I just didn't feel it at all. Like, I didn't have that proud moment of, hey, check this out. Like, I listened to it back. I heard the demos before we recorded. I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to sound cool. I can imagine that. But then there was just a creative control over it from one person in particular. And
when you say creative control, I'm thinking like making a song is a bunch of components, right? So your component would be the bass guitar.
Yep.
So he would write down the lyrics, the lead singer, and then he would give you the lyrics, and then you would compose a bass track to that. How would it work? How do you build a song? Like, how would you guys build a song rather?
Well, that's the thing. So it happens many different ways. Like, I when I grew up, I had this idea. When I was growing up, sorry, shit English. I had this idea that bands all just got into a room and they started riffing shit out, and that's how songs were born. But it's not. Everyone writes differently. Same as comedy. Like, I could see something on the way home that inspires me to write something. It could be great, could be shit. Who knows until you try it. But
yeah,
it could be something as simple as, like, we had two main writers in our band. One might come up with a whole song or just a riff, and then, oh, hey, that sounds like something that could go with this thing I came up with last week, and it would kind of just form like that.
So everyone had an input. So you felt,
first album, yes.
So you felt by the second album, the lead singer was shutting you guys out of the creative process.
Pretty much. Like, I got to write my own bass lines and shit, but, you know, the song structure is the song structure, and, you know, these are your root notes. That's what you can play off. So that was cool. But it just didn't. It felt like I was playing on a solo project, if that makes sense. Like, I felt like a session player, not a bandmate, if that makes sense. So, like, technically speaking, you asking me to come up with something for the podcast, that's in a loose way what a session player would do. It's like, I want it to sound like this. Show me what you come up with. If I like it, I'll give you the go ahead. Whereas in a band situation, it's like, Johnny's got this riff. I reckon it'll go with this thing I wrote the other day.
Okay.
Let's see what happens. And that's it. So, yeah, it just lost that. I just fell out of love with it, really. And right before...
Well, it sounds like your head wasn't under the bonnet. You weren't, like, tinkering away, like, fucking around. And I think the creative process you enjoyed was, if I heard you right, was fucking about. Like, playing... like riffing, like jazz-like.
Yeah, see what happens. Yeah, in a loose way, yeah, just, you know, this sounds cool. Do you reckon we can make that work with that kind of thing? Not just here's a song, learn it.
That's why so many bands just implode, man. There's so much creative pressure.
Yeah.
Everyone contributing. It's just like this fucking pressure cooker that builds and builds, and someone one day in the future is not going to like what you're coming up with.
Shit, yeah.
And then you're going to have alpha males or alpha females, whatever, in the group that just clash.
An alpha, leader. Yeah, it does. It really happens. Like, maybe someone's not pulling their weight, and you try and pull them up on it, and it goes ugly. Like,
was
just
it
happens.
ugly when you left, or was it like amicable?
Yeah, it was amicable. So I told them straight up, because I was nearly finishing my mechanics apprenticeship when they wanted to go to Japan. Simply didn't have the money. And I looked at the venues we were doing. I was like, no one's going to know who we are. No, we were like a month away. I was like, no one's promoted.
Really?
We don't even know the bands we're on with, all that sort of shit.
Fuck. So how much money did you need to bring to the table to go on tour to Japan?
Individually?
Yeah.
Close to 10.
Wow.
And
you don't know what was going to come of it?
No.
So it was like throwing a dart at a board. If
Pretty much.
If you get lucky, you stick, and then you do some interviews, people put you on TV there, and away you go.
Yeah, and
so
there was none of that. No, fuck no, none of that. So
it was just a Hail Mary. Hopefully someone sees you. It can open a door.
it was an opportunity. So we had a record label at that point, and it was just an opportunity that they offered us.
Okay.
But they did fuck all for us. So like back in the day, like your Led Zeppelins, your Kisses, and all that sort of stuff, it would be a Mr. Katz, record exec. Here's a demo we did. What do you think? And if you saw something in us, you'd be like, yeah, here's X amount of dollars. Go to this recording studio.
Make an album.
Here's your producer. What have you got? And you would have the final say whether that's good enough or not.
Okay.
Whereas you can go the independent route, which we did with our first album. We wrote all the shit and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yep, we're happy with this. And we just sent that CD to a bunch of labels. And they came back with, yeah, we want that. But all our format is every album we release has to have 14 tracks on it. And our debut album only had 9. So we had to write a bunch of other tracks to put on that so it could be distributed and labeled and all that sort of shit. But you don't need a band manager anymore or a label. You've got YouTube. You've got
right.
You got Spotify.
I had a quick look on Spotify. Your band, when you 180,000 or something like.
I haven't checked, to be honest. I don't have Spotify.
That's a lot. That's fucking heaps.
Yeah, but it's just
in
like,
my opinion, anyway.
I couldn't tell you. I mean, once.
See, I understand your point. You can reach exposure
to an extent
independently.
Yeah, it's like so like back in the day, like, you know, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have mobile phones. Not everyone knew everyone. Like, you could message your favorite comic through Instagram overseas. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, if you're in town, come here. But back then, you had someone who organised your tours, organised your studio time, organised your life, basically, like a personal assistant, and got you the deals and the money. Whereas I don't know what our label did for us. I really don't. Absolutely do not. So
they hired you as maybe could pop, but we'll give them the least amount of love. We'll set them on a tour, but they'll have to pay for their own way.
That's the thing. Here's the scary bit. So the initial, so we had an album, and at this point we had an album. We were writing a second, and they responded to us. They loved our first album, and they're like, "Yeah, we want to see what you can do."
What record label is this? Is this a good label, by the way?
Yeah.
In terms of like,
it's I can't tell you if they're still around, but Eclipse Records. Now
I've heard of Eclipse.
Exactly. So they you ever heard of Mushroom Head?
I've heard of Mushroom Records.
Okay, no, that's Australian. So Mushroom Head, they were a new metal band, which kind of, it's like heavy riffs with, there might be a sampler or a DJ involved, kind of thing, kind of like your Linkin Park sort of thing, but heavier. Mushroom Head were one of the first acts that they had. I'm a Mushroom Head fan. When we got offered Eclipse Records, I was like, oh, holy fuck, this is gonna be great.
Yeah,
a record label that's been around for 30 years.
So you were in their stable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Completely different music, but it was just like.
But you didn't get the love.
Fuck no. No.
Why didn't you get the love? They signed you.
Because it's not financially viable. I don't know why.
So why do they back to the mystery? Why sign you then?
Content.
They need content.
Assuming so.
Okay.
So
But how do they expect you to survive by raising 10 grand to go to Japan to play in small venues?
Don't know. Absolutely don't know. But I did the research on the venues and stuff, and I maintain this today through comedy. Like, I would rather do a packed room, whatever the size, be it 20, 50, 100, 500, whatever, than make $100 from that gig. Or whatever headliners get, or whatever. Like, but if you're gonna drop a potential house deposit on a car, and we were all broke. Like, 3 of us had jobs out of the 5 of us. Like, I was driving a $3,000 Yaris because I had to. You know what I mean?
Well, you're a stereotypical heavy fucking metal band, and you're all young kids. None of you are financial brokers or have stock portfolios or fucking daddy's money.
No.
You play heavy for a reason because you had a shit life or there was some shit going on in you, and you just want some aggression. You want to smash some instruments.
A lot of inspiration comes from depression. It's great.
It's brilliant. I fucking love it. But
that's all it's good for, yeah.
Going back to the original question, I love stand-up now because I'm happy to be a comedian now because of what we have available at our exposure. Yep. Like, I can do this and 20 years ago, I would have to panel beat my material from a rated R down to a rated PG just to have a shot at getting on TV and radio. And another thing, people like Jim Jeffries would never be able to be heard,
No.
ever. So I absolutely love the fact that we can say exactly what we want, and it's indicative of the culture of the Comedy Store in Los Angeles, where in the 80s and the 70s, I can't remember who said this, but I saw it in a documentary. They were saying that you go to the LA Comedy Store in the 70s and 80s, and you only see one type of material getting delivered. Material that's meant to be for radio or TV, because every comic wanted to break it.
Yep.
And operating either side of that, you had like you'd have people like the Richard Pryors and the George Carlins who were doing their own thing.
Yep.
Now, you go to the Comedy Store, you go to any club, you see such a wide range of material, people going at it hammer and tong,
Yep.
because they know they can get their niche audiences.
It's just about exposure.
Mm.
Like,
and also you're true to your art form.
Yeah.
Because if social media is allowing you to be true to your art form, you can create whatever the fuck you want. I could sit here and have the Nazi Comedy Club, and I'll still get about 500 people sign up and tune in and go, "Yes, this is great. Fucking loves this show. Brilliant. Finally something to enjoy." Anyway, like, my point is that you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. No, it's great, and I found that
I don't believe in censorship, by the way.
no,
Sorry to cut you
neither.
off.
No, neither.
So I want to know everything what's out there.
Yeah.
To avoid the Nazi Party,
Yeah.
Comedy Club.
Yep. So don't do any gigs in Arkansas. You might get the
Yes.
Ku Klux in. Yeah. Hey brother. But I totally agree. So I had this moment where right before I left the band, like I already wasn't feeling it. The second album came out. I wasn't proud of it. The only thing I was proud of was that video I sent you for Hollow.
Yes.
How
How do you play songs that you're not proud of? With difficulty? Or do you switch off on stage?
No, because
Do you...
stage time was freedom.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I can't make my rent this week, but I'm up there.
Yep.
This is me time. I hope you enjoy it, kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's something very... It washes away everything. You just had a fight with your missus, you can't make your rent, your car's fucked, whatever. You get up there and do it, and it's just a break from reality for anywhere from half hour to an hour, like whatever it is. It's just something very freeing of it. But I had just started stand-up when, as that second album was being finished, and heard it, all that sort of stuff. I was like, yeah, this is going to be cool. And then it came out. I was just like, fuck that. I prefer comedy. And doing, like, when I finally solidified a good 5, I think, like, I started at Guerrilla Comedy with Paul Sharplin at Resistance Bar. And when I finally had a good 5 or 7 together and he gave me my first proper spot, like on a poster kind of thing, I was like, fuck, that's my name on a poster. I was like, yeah, fuck music. Like, not fuck it, but I was just like, I want to do this, because it was like the closest thing to feeling like I ran my own business.
Yeah.
I can say whatever the fuck I want. I can do it wherever I can get a gig. I can, mingle with these. Like, there's no regiment of, we're rehearsing this week, so we know we're going to start with song 2, then we're going to go to song 8, blah,
Yes.
blah, blah, blah. Whereas, like, now, and I wish I had this skill when I started, but obviously you can't, but, like, you can read a room, you're on 3rd or 4th or whatever, and you can hear what's going down and what's not. And it's like, okay, well, if they didn't like that, they're going to hate this thing on mine.
Yeah.
And you can switch your setup completely before you take the mic. This is something
Absolutely.
really, really liberating about that.
Yeah. If you get good at it, you can read a room and know those things. Yeah. It's like a surfer watching the breaks before he goes in to see how
Yeah.
the waves are moving and where to enter the water from and how to get up. And...
Hopefully you can spot a shark too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a heckler.
Yeah. Yeah. I fucking love
Just
hecklers.
chomps you out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I that's why I struggle during lockdown, because I've often described stand-up comedy as meditation.
Yep.
And I need it, because meditation makes you focus on the now. Well, your breathing. Everything else
Yep.
is gone. You just listen to your breathing. Stand-up has that amazing ability as well. When you're on stage, it's all about the now, the moment, everything coming. All your senses are alert for whatever's coming in and whatever you're saying. You haven't got time to think about anything else. And if you do, you're fucked.
Yeah.
You're going to trip up. And the audience know they have an innate ability as a sixth sense to detect that you're not there. You're not present in the room, even though they can physically fucking see you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's actually a really good point because I took my girlfriend Jade to great comic. I'm not just saying that because I'm with her, but we had date night at the lounge and you were headlining. And, you know, we've done a couple of gigs together and, you know, I call shit as I see it. Like, I know you're a big name, you've been doing it for years, but if I didn't like your stuff or I didn't see you do well, I wouldn't offer you a gig. But it was just incredible to see, like, you in a, like, because I hadn't seen you in a big venue before. And I'd never seen you deal with someone speaking out of line. And it was fucking brilliant. Like, it was so cool.
Was there a heckler that night?
Yeah. So I think I went on the
Can't remember.
third night you had. Yeah, you're talking about a train line or something, and someone, it was a new bit, so I don't. Well, it was a new bit to me, so I don't remember it. But someone yelled out like 2 other train stations.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I shut him down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great, but I've never seen you deal with that.
Well,
It was cool.
if I could be perfectly frank, I don't feel very confident relating back and forth with hecklers.
Yeah.
So I don't. Have you ever? I don't do crowd work. How often have you?
No,
seen
I
me do-
know you don't, and that's why it was.
I'm there for, like, I just have my material and I want to get it out. So if someone, like, I think I heard him chomping up and
Yeah.
I was like, I've got to put him down straight away, and the only way I could do it is with just some alpha aggression.
It was
and
great.
And it worked, and I was able to move on. But secretly in the back of my head, I was going, "Thank fuck he shut up." Oh, thank goodness that's happened because I can focus on my material again. And I moved forward because I was like, I just want to be creative on stage and then get off. I don't want to go, what do you do? What's your name? What do you get up to on the
I get
weekend?
that.
Like, I fucking...
That's not material.
Yeah, I just, I've often said, like, I'm addicted to the laughter, but I hate the crowds. It's like heroin. Love heroin, hate the needle. So that's why I'm there. But yeah, back to your gig. You're running a gig, an outdoor gig. What are you going to fucking do, man? Because we're heading into winter.
Yeah.
There's a skeleton frame. By the way, this gig is, plug the gig because it's got fucking wonderful potential.
Yeah, it's called... the restaurant's called Cafe Paradiso in Camberwell. Trialing it as a monthly.
It puts on pro acts.
That was one of the best lineups I've ever curated, I think.
It's a monthly gig, and it's outdoors, and I know we're heading into winter, but having said that, the layout is gorgeous. It is like summer in
garden.
an Italian court. No, not a beer garden. It's like an Italian terrace garden.
Oh, that's what they call it.
Gorgeous.
All right, I'll sell it as Italian terrace.
It's very European. It's very pretty and picturesque, and I really loved it. And I just think in winter, I want the gig to survive because it's got potential. There was a good number there for the first gig, and I just think there's a skeleton frame. Could you convince him to get a tarp? And then you just get a cheap tarp, some fucking fairy lights on the inside from Bunnings for like $20, and a heater. Yeah. And away we go.
Yeah, we had the heaters on. It was lucky that the skies opened up. Wait, is it opened up? No, they cleared up right before because we were ready to move it indoors.
Because you can't go indoors during winter because he's running a business, right? He wants to sell.
Yeah, but Thursdays are dead.
Oh, okay.
So
well, if you can commandeer it, then
if we come into when we come into winter and shit looks a bit dire, I'm gonna get him to promote it as a comedy night. But yeah, it was just to try something different.
It was great. It worked.
It was fun. It was really fun. They were wrapped. They took more on the bar on Thursday than they have in the last year. So definitely doing it again. Yeah, it was great. So we're trialing that as monthly because I wanted to plant the seed around Comedy Fest time because after a couple of gigs I've been to in the last little bit, I'm a room runner as well. I like to see how punters hear about things. So like with Death or Glory, the first night we had back, I didn't recognise anyone in the room and we were sold out first night back, I was like, who the fuck are these people? And so, people hanging around and stuff. We had a great lineup. And, I just got chatting. Like, how'd you find out about this? Half of them were Insta, half of them were Facebook ads. Bunch of them were, my mate came here last year and told me to come down when it opens up again. I was like, oh, great. So kind of got nosy, and a few gigs I went to, performing and just watching. You get talking to someone while you're having a smoke outside. It's just like, how'd you find out about this? And like, oh, we live in the area. We had no idea it was here. I was like, do you ever go to comedy anywhere else through the year? I'm like, no, just Comedy Fest. I was like, there's comedy like all through the year, right? I'm like, oh, really?
Really?
And that came up a few times.
Wow. I was going to say something to the effect that it's changing. Like, when I started stand-up comedy, and this is like 15, 20 years ago, stand-up comedy was an underground form of entertainment. The Comics Lounge was pretty much the only gig in Melbourne, and also the Last Laugh in Lygon Street. Then
Yep.
everything else was pretty much open mic and footy clubs and cricket clubs and soccer clubs. So you're always leaving Melbourne on the weekend if you weren't booked at the Lounge or the
Yeah.
Last Laugh to
Yeah.
make money. But now it seems like with globalization and the internet and Netflix and this one culture, stand-up is very normal on Netflix. People are exposed to it here in Australia, and I've noticed that people are starting to creep more and more into stand-up. So I think it's going forward, it's a good time. I think a lot of people are, which makes your job easier, because being a room runner, for those who don't know, I can only imagine it must be shit and difficult to run a successful room, because you have to, well, you tell us, you're probably dealing with the venue. The venue can blindside you and knock you out and go, we've got a function this week. And you're like, hey, what do you mean you've got a function? I've booked a gig here. I've booked comedians. I've sold tickets.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we're having a 21st. They've paid us $1,500 for the room. So it's fucking difficult.
Yeah.
And you've got a million comics ringing you, mostly the shit ones.
Comics, yeah.
Yeah. And you've got people harassing you afterwards going, I'm offended. And it's like, well, you don't ring Village Roadshow and complain that they're just fucking screening a movie. If you're offended, take it up with the comic.
That movie was recycled and unoriginal. I want my money back. That wouldn't fly. Like, so I don't run the biggest room in Melbourne. I don't pretend it is.
But essentially, the mechanics are the same.
Yeah, but we seat 40. So 50 if we've got enough chairs. But I'm trying to build the smallest big room in Melbourne. So my goal is to be the Cherry Bar of comedy. So Cherry Bar, if you knew, let's say someone everyone would know, AC/DC's in town tonight. The band's going to go to Cherry Bar in AC/DC Lane to have the piss up afterwards. So if you want Angus Young's signature or just to see them kind of thing, have a drink with them. If you're a hardcore groupie or whatever, you would go there.
Is that true?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
AC/DC, when they're in town, they always go to the Cherry Bar.
I don't know about AC/DC, but I met I had drinks with the singer from Rammstein, massive industrial metal band from the 90s, and they're still active today.
Is that the Cherry Bar in Melbourne?
Yeah.
Wow. I lost a pill on the dance floor there one year. I remember being on my knees for 15 minutes without mobile phones back then, looking with my eyes wide open, trying to find it.
That's probably pretty normal.
I was crushed. Ironically, so was the pill.
Not in me, no. I want that place where, let's pretend you're from Queensland or New Zealand or whatever.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And you're coming here to do the lounge or fucking Etihad or whatever you're doing. Me personally, I would think it would be nuts if, say, a band went interstate or international and before their first performance, they didn't have a rehearsal. You know what I mean? So, like, go into a little, whether it's dingy, whether it's lush, rehearsal studio just to tighten up and whatever. So, using that theory, I want to create a space where, again, pretend you're interstate or whatever, because, you've got open door policy at my joint. But if you were coming down for your week's worth of shows and you get down a day early, it's like, don't know if my shit's going to fly with the locals, blah, 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 kind of thing. Where can I do a warm-up show?
Does that mean you need to know a little bit about search engine optimization and utilizing the internet search engine for interstate comics? Like, should you be plugging... have you heard of SEO? Sorry, are you looking at me confused?
I know fuck all about computers.
Right,
I only know
there you
how
go.
to delete a search history, that's it.
There's something called SEO, search engine optimization. You sit there on a computer and you put in all these fucking tag words and keywords, and you target Sydney and you target Queensland for this example.
Yep.
And it's Death or Glory, which is your room's name in every Tuesday night.
Every Tuesday night in Chapel.
And you target those cities specifically, Queensland and New South Wales.
Yeah.
And what happens is, as comics are performing in their own cities in Queensland and Sydney, Death or Glory comes up in their feeds on purpose. It costs a lot of money, but it's something like $500 to $600 a month to do an effective SEO campaign. And what that does is it brings your club to the attention of everyone interstate. And then what will happen is when they come down, they know about you and they'll hit you up.
Oh, it's like back in the day when Yellow Pages were relevant. And, if you started a mechanics joint, you would call it AA Automotive. Because AA was the first thing that popped up.
That is the fucking caveman distilled, broken down version of search engine optimization. That is it in a nutshell. That is the SMS of the pigeon world. You've distilled it eloquently and perfectly. That's exactly what it is. So you're trying to target these fuckers to know about your gig. So you can even say things like, try your new material before you go to the big clubs. Doing the lounge on the weekend, come to me on Tuesday. Get it right before you die and never get invited back.
Yeah, I've pitched this idea to Dougie because me and Dougie do some, pre-COVID, I was helping him do Cheeky Squire and Frankston.
Yeah.
Closest gig to home. It was amazing. So I was doing sound for him and all that sort of shit. And I said to him, I'd love to have a place where acts could just pop up. So I keep 10 minutes up my sleeve every night just in case.
Yeah.
Because, I want to pitch that, you never know who's going to rock up kind of thing. Yeah, I think it's a good idea, so just got to build it. But we got delayed so many fucking times with COVID and that little snap lockdown we had. So I think we're only up to gig 4 this week.
Yeah, I completely forgot. We were meant to have a comedy festival. Are you looking at redoing that? Do you know when?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this. So I wanted to do September, but that's Fringe.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking first or second week of summer before it gets too hot and people are coming out of their shells and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just tell you in a nutshell, there is a plethora of wonderful stand-up comedians out there in Melbourne that haven't necessarily been spotted by a select few talent agencies, one being Token Artists. They have the industry sewn up, so to speak, in terms of television and radio exposure. If you don't fall on their radar, you kind of miss a lot of opportunities to perform on radio and TV. So Jordy has created a festival where he can highlight these acts that are absolutely destroying gigs and clubs everywhere they play, hitting sixes every fucking gig. And he's going to highlight these acts on stage so people can actually go and appreciate it. It's kind of like you were calling it the black...
Yeah, the
Black Market Festival, but not in a way
Black Market Comedy, yeah.
Not in a way of black market comedy as in going up against the festival, but more so have a look at something that's not in the spotlight. Like it's black, it's hidden, but it's still a fucking gem.
Yeah, it was kind of like a lot this was my band thing coming out, like band mentality coming out. So like when you write a song, the song might be finished musically and lyrically, but you don't have a name for it yet.
Yeah.
Like you had an idea for a podcast, but you haven't thought of a name yet. That sort of thing. Like, just because, I'm not saying this, but I mean like, something might be finished on paper, but you just haven't thought of the right thing for it. So the working title that I came up with was Black Market Comedy. Actually, I think Gary Jahal said that. Great comedian, check him out.
And Dougie Chappell before we mentioned his name.
And fuck yeah, Dougie Chappell.
Thanks, Johnny. I fucking appreciate it, mate. One of the nicest.
That was spot on.
One of the nicest guys in comedy. Thanks, Ketty.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, it was spot on. And we had this idea for an ad for it, just like a little clip where he was going to be walking down Chapel Street. I was going to be walking down as well. I was like, hey, man. And then he'd be like, hey, bro, you want some comedy? And he'd like whip his jacket out and there'd just be flyers.
Yeah, cool.
Like just something stupid like that. So that was the working title. I think we just called it Death or Glory's Comedy Showcase.
Yeah,
in the end.
I love stuff like that. You took me completely off topic there.
Sorry.
No, you've taken me completely off topic just then. I thought of some. That's a clever marketing idea by Gary. To
Yeah,
just have
fuck yeah.
have the flyers like that.
Because Gary went to me one day after a gig. He goes, "You doing anything for festivals?" I was like, "No, I'm not ready." He goes, "Do something here."
Mm.
Like, huh. And I applied for residency for the venue. I knew I wasn't ready to do a fucking hour or half hour at that stage. But I sent the thing in and asked for residency, like verified venue, whatever, and we were 2Ks too far out of the city to get it.
Mm.
And Gary's like, "Fuck it, do your own thing."
Mm.
But I need to double track back to pigeons for a second. I don't know if you heard on the news the other week. Someone bought a homing pigeon for I think $1 million in Russia or something. Obviously not Australian dollars, but it just got me thinking. Like, imagine if you sent your mate a note with that pigeon, $1 million pigeon, and he texted you back,
Straight away.
"Bro, I got your pigeon." Like, how fucking pissed would you be?
You would be very pissed.
That's the biggest waste of money I've ever thought of.
Fuck yeah. $1 million homing pigeon.
Something like that, yeah. Or whatever, ruples or some shit. I've never been to Russia. I don't know what they use.
Apparently there's a lot of money in homing pigeons. I still don't know how the fuck they do it.
Neither.
I mean, I know it's got something to do with the Earth's magnetic field.
But how do they know where to go? Like, I couldn't even find your fucking place coming here, and I knew the address.
Exactly. Yeah.
They can't read.
I think pigeons, if they can do that, they should be Uber drivers, delivering Uber food. Like 4 or 5 of them would have to get together to lift the bag, especially my load, because I go like 2 large pizzas.
Yeah.
So you'll need a few pigeons.
Yeah, you got to have leftovers, yeah.
But pigeons, and yeah, they could fuck. Oh, but they'd shit in our food, wouldn't they? By accident.
Potentially, yeah, or eat the cardboard.
But yeah, that freaks me out, homing pigeons, but I think it's like the Earth's magnetosphere. Anyway, $1 million.
Something like that, yeah. I remember thinking you could buy like 3 of those cars for that. So it was something crazy money. I just found it fucking hilarious.
I don't fucking understand that. I don't understand that, but I do understand like the DNA of a Tasmanian tiger getting sold for like $1 million. That makes sense.
Yeah, some crazy scientists will do it, and then we'll have a
back engineer it, and we'll have it back.
Yeah, we'll have it back, and then we'll have like a live action horror movie.
Yeah. Do you believe? Well, have you seen like how we're genetically modifying ourselves? Did you know about that?
No, I didn't, but I accidentally, now that you've said it, I know the word for it now. It's
CRISPR. That's the program. Sorry, go on.
Oh, is it?
I cut you off. Yeah.
No, that's good. No,
what were you gonna say?
I'm not a history buff, but I'm fascinated by World War II.
Yeah, me too.
There's just something about it. Like, it's just, it's like...
It was the perfect war in terms of... I apologize. I don't take the word perfect out of context. It was the perfect war in terms of good versus evil.
Yeah. It was like a movie.
It was Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a fucking movie.
Dark forces, good forces.
And all the fucked up and good things that came from it, like hero stories and all the rest of it. There's just something fascinating about it, and my fascination with it is, I don't travel much, right? But let's say you told me you saw the pyramids, and like, dude, you just won't believe how big they are. And like, yeah, I'll research. The pyramids are X amount of standard stories tall. I can't see that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd have to go to Egypt to be like, oh, wow, that's a fucking pyramid. You know what I mean? It's like when they say a great white shark was spotted and it was the size of a school bus. Like, okay, well, I know what a school bus looks like, but not a fucking shark school bus. You know what I mean? Like, you'd need to see it. But
sure.
The more I see of World War II, I just can't get my head around that it actually happened. It's just nuts. But there was a little thing I saw, like, what is it? It's called World War II in Color. It's on Netflix. It's incredible. They were talking about how the US didn't want to get involved because they'd just come out of a depression, and it was like the boom of the Western world, basically, the start of it. Like,
sure.
Money at everything, and balls and flash cars and all this sort of shit.
It's a true indication that governments only deal in matters of convenience, not conscience. They generally just wanted to put their heads down and make money because America was beginning to boom.
Yep.
They were making money, and money buys votes.
Yeah.
They didn't want to drag their children to a war. Why would you? So that's why America wanted out.
Yeah, not another one 30 years later. Yeah, because everyone knew someone who was in that war. Like now, you wouldn't know anyone who was in, like, they're all dead for the most part.
But
But
there's a couple alive at the RSL. The aircon's keeping them refreshed and alive, but they're on their way out. They're almost cooked.
they're just going. But talking about genetically modified people, it was just strange because you see all these Americans in the 50s. Sorry, it's not 50s. In the 40s, and they're all healthy looking. No one's fat. You got the odd dad bod, but no one's obese. And like they had shots of people shopping, people dancing, people buying cars, whatever. So it was a broad spectrum of like a snapshot kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then you skip forward 20 years, Coca-Cola's introduced, Macca's is introduced, and everyone's fucking huge.
Yeah, because we started processing our food.
Yeah. And you got to wonder, is that where all these, not learning difficulties, but like, just like spectrums and all this sort of, like, is that because of what we're eating? Like,
I don't know about spectrums, but I agree with you physically. Like the obesity problem, definitely from processed foods, because the body is freaking the fuck out. Because our body's been engineered over the last 1 million or 2 million years to run a certain way, to digest a certain way, and then you incorporate these long chain chemical complex formulas and molecules introduced into your body, which McDonald's call fresher for longer. And your body is like thrown a curveball and it can't deal with it. So it just goes, I don't know what to do. I'll just put this over here. And that's called the fat bank.
Yeah.
And it's fucked. And it leads to all this shit. But So World War II, you're fascinated by World War II.
Shit, yeah.
Because of that. The same reason as me. Good versus evil.
Yeah, good versus evil, and just the sheer thought and scale of it. You know what I mean? Like I'm a mechanic by trade. I know that, my Yaris weighs 1.5 tons, but a Sherman tank, I think it's like 38.
38 ton.
Something like that. Something fucking ridiculous.
Is a Sherman tank the American one?
Yeah, the American one.
Do you know they're called Tommy cookers?
Yeah.
Because they built them with a shit thin armor.
Yeah.
And the Germans used to shoot right through into them, and they'd cook them.
Just shit like that. I just find it fascinating.
Tommy was an American.
Yeah.
It's awful.
It's nuts. What a way to go. But like, tanks aren't, that big. Like, you've been on a bus. The tank's like a bus cut in half put together, but it weighs 38 ton. It's just ridiculous.
Going back to what you said before about genetically modified, and are we on the spectrum nowadays? I think World War II has got a lot to answer for that, because World War II produced a plethora of post-traumatic stress disorder, and men coming back from the war, not being able to deal with it.
Yeah, can't talk about it.
Drinking heavily, and succumbing to domestic violence, and the marriage would break down, and family violence would culminate from that, and then all of a sudden you've got children brought up incorrectly, and that is the domino effect.
I think so. I'm just talking from personal experience, and I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, but like I've had family members, friends of friends, who have had kids in the last 5 years, and like every second one of them, the doctor has said, or the nurse or whatever has been like, oh, they're on the spectrum of autism.
Why?
Fucked if I know, but I don't. Autism wasn't a thing when I was in primary school. There was the kid with ADHD.
Yeah, it must have been, but it wasn't classified, right? It was
maybe.
Odd one out. Tim is the odd one out.
Yeah.
When NASA in the 60s and 70s was full of kids that were NASA in the 60s and 70s was full of autistic people, because they were able to sit down and calculate for hours.
Really?
Without being affected by boredom or the lack of concentration required to sit there and calculate, because they had computers back then the size of rooms.
Yeah.
And people had to cross-check and verify that the computations were correct, utilizing Newtonian mechanics to get a space capsule all the way to the moon, to do a loop-de-loop of the moon and then come back and bring the astronauts back was such a huge undertaking that the computer they used was so fucking big, but human beings had to ride along with it to check all its mathematics. And they were autistic. They were on the spectrum.
Maybe it's just they didn't use the word autism.
No, it
when
wasn't
when I was
classified.
in
No,
yeah
it was Timmy, the odd one out.
yeah
That's all it was. But there's always been, and I think Alan. I mean, I'm going to make a leap here, but I reckon Alan Turing.
Who's that? Sorry.
He's the genius who created the computer in World War II and broke
Okay.
the Enigma code.
Oh,
He
I
must
should,
have
I should
been-
know that shit.
He
Yeah.
should be on the spectrum, I think. I mean, this is where I'm making just a creative leap, but it sounds like he was on the spectrum because he was a genius mathematically, rather introverted.
Yeah. What about Einstein? He was introverted and socially awkward, allegedly.
Well, I watched a documentary on Einstein yesterday, and they got his brain when he died, and they
Oh,
cut it.
shit.
They cut it open, and he has. This is the only way I can describe it to you, man. We've got three components of our brain.
Mm.
Inside our brain, there's three sections in our brain. I call them core processors.
Yep.
He had a fourth,
Wow.
and that was a very big anomaly.
Holy
Huge
shit.
anomaly. His brain weighed the same. It weighed 1,230 grams, so
Yeah.
1.2 kilos. That's a very normal sized brain. So his
Yeah.
brain wasn't any bigger. So that dispelled that myth. That put that myth to rest.
Yep.
He had a quad core processor as opposed to three like we have. And he had this section of his brain which did a loop, like a U-turn. They called it the omega because it's like a Greek omega sign.
Yep.
And they said that section doesn't appear on any brain whatsoever.
Fuck.
Then they cut his brain in half, which I feel for the fucker, but hey,
He was dead.
he was dead. And they found he had a thicker pool of brain white matter
Yeah.
as opposed to any other brain on the planet. And that thick pool of brain white matter is essentially a house's wiring.
Okay.
So he had twice the amount of wiring. So that may have allowed more signals to be sent or faster signals to be sent. Who knows? But those three factors, his processing power, his omega sign, which I don't know what the fuck that is,
Yeah.
and the large conglomerate of white matter as opposed to us.
It's like he was on like NBN and I'm still on dial-up.
Yes.
That's nuts.
Yeah, so that allowed him to sit in a room and conduct huge abstract thought experiments. And one of the thought experiments he had, which I marvel at to this day, is he was in I forget the place. But I was going to visit it in Switzerland, but it was snowed out. I couldn't get to. I think it was Born or Björn. No, that's a singer. I forget where it was, but he was a young kid and he was staring at like a Big Ben clock.
Yeah.
So just picture Big Ben. He was staring at this fucking clock and he was constantly doing thought experiments, and that's why he was always aloof in class.
Yep.
He was never productive. They always kicked him out of class because he was entertaining himself.
Yeah.
So he was staring at this clock and he was watching the tick and the tock on the second hand. And he said to himself, if I started moving away from the clock at the speed of light, I would not see the tick turn to tock because the light from tick to tock would not have time to catch up to me because
shit.
it would be moving at the speed of light. And if I'm moving at the speed of light, the tick would never have time to catch up to show me, hey, I've just become tock.
Oh, wow.
Do you get that?
Yeah. Surprisingly, I do, yeah.
That's when he realized time stops when you travel at the speed of light.
Ah.
And then he did the mathematics backwards
Yeah.
to indeed highlight the fact that he was right.
That's nuts.
Fucking nuts. But he was so eloquent that he was able to describe it to me, a fucking wog growing up in Coburg that never finished algebra in high school. He was able to get it across to me. And I'm like, yeah, I actually get that.
Yeah.
If you're moving so fast, you won't see a clock move its second hand. So essentially, you see time as still. And sure enough, he did the maths, and yeah, time does stop.
Did that lead to them, like scientists working out, you look at that star in the sky right now, it could be dead already, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that where light years came from?
Yes.
Wow.
And also he basically realized that from that he developed a theory of relativity that showed that everything is relative. It's hard to get a complete picture of everything because we're on a ball, but the ball is not going around the sun. It's corkscrewing around the sun because we're in space is expanding, so we're moving with it, and we're not stationary going around the sun like a runner going around a track. We pick up that racetrack and move it.
Yeah.
So the runner is corkscrewing around the track now.
Yeah.
Moving through space. So then he started realizing it's all your perspective, your angle. It's where you come from. And he also and he realized that from another thought experiment that said if you're in an elevator right now and the elevator starts going down at a constant speed and you're blindfolded, you don't know you're in an elevator anymore. Because when you're in a car doing 100 perfectly,
no shit.
You don't know you're in a car doing 100. Or you can be blindfolded and sort of fooled into thinking, hey, I don't feel motion. The only time you feel motion is when the speed changes.
Yeah.
So he developed a theory saying that when you're in a uniformly moving body, same speed, you think you're stationary. Like Earth, we think we're stationary, but we're moving.
No.
So
is this where you came up with the Usain Bolt joke?
Usain Bolt joke, I came up because I'm a twisted fuck, and I don't know why I was mixing cum and Usain Bolt together in the same sentence, but
it just happened.
That's just a stupid brain fart on the couch in a doco. Hey, you can't come on the cunt's back. Oh well. And then I laughed, and I go, I should note that down on a post-it note. But that's the lovely thing about, hey man, fuck, we're waffling. I got to go. I got shit to do.
Done.
Thanks for coming in, man.
Anytime, dude. Thank you very much.
Anytime, come back.
Yeah, love to.
Cheers, Jordy.
Heaps of shit to talk about.
All right, thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for listening.
Bye.